Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to our Muslim Teens podcast. I am Zaina, and we have Miss Ariba here. We have Ayaan, and we have Ahmed. Today, our topic would be the UK riots that happened in the ending of July. And today, we're going to be discussing it and how it has impacted Muslims living there and also around the world, how we feel about it. Ahmed, what has happened in UK and how did it start?
Right, so it started in Southport. A boy going by the name of Axel, who is 17, stabbed many just little girls, little children in Southport, and it all started because of one person who started all this misinformation on social media and saying that it was a Syrian Muslim, I think he said, that started all of these that killed all of these little children. And then, first of all, the police were not supposed to reveal his name at all because there was a restriction because the criminals under the age of 18 are not allowed their names are not allowed to be revealed. But they had to lift that restriction just because there was misinformation and these like dangerous riots going on. They had to lift these restrictions for the safety of the Muslim community. So that's how it all kind of began on from there.
So, since you live in UK, I would like to ask you, do you feel that Muslims generally in UK are scared to step out and wear hijab or be like practicing Muslims openly there?
I think this will definitely like put people down in practicing their faith openly. First, first of all, the previous First Minister of Scotland, who was Muslim, said that he is scared. He and his family are scared for their safety here in the UK because of all the riots going on. Definitely, this scares a lot of people. I was supposed to go to a football match in London, but that we had to take off due to like maybe safety issues. I wasn't allowed to go there because we were scared of the riots. Yeah, so it really does like put off many people practicing their religion and talking about their religion openly. But many of us are confident and we're still practicing our religion openly.
So it does affect your day-to-day life when something like this happens and it makes you have to postpone things or, stop some plans. So other than that, do you think it affects Muslim teens in any other ways, like, the way they feel about their environment or their mental health or something like that?
I think it'll definitely make them more like aware of their surroundings and always be on the lookout and more like on their toes because of all the things going on. So yeah, it'll definitely affect them in some way or the other. And hopefully this isn't a problem in the future for us youth in the future, inshallah. And do you want to add anything onto that?
I mean, as Ahmed said, it will probably impact some part of the lifestyle, of your regular daily day-to-day lifestyle. Of course it will. But yeah, exactly.
Has there been like any effect of that in Netherlands? Oh, sorry, you are in where? Denmark, sorry, not in
You know,
Netherlands.
I mean, I wouldn't say anything really happened in Denmark. I mean, people have heard about the news, but
Mm.
as Denmark is one of the safest countries in the world, nothing really happens here. It's quite boring, if I'm going to be honest.
But we hear oftentimes a lot of stories about Islamophobia and far right there as well, aren't there? Isn't there like a strong far right movement there as well?
I
No?
mean, there is, of course, political
Yeah,
arguments, but that really rarely comes out.
among the people.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I just want to say that the person who did commit these crimes was born where I am currently. Yeah, and so on top of that,
You want to
he was,
tell you have that in common with him?
yeah. Not a good thing, but yeah. He and his family were of Christian background. And
Right.
obviously, because of this misinformation, the first attack was on the Southport Mosque. And as soon
Mm.
as the police revealed that it was not a Muslim, sorry, Axel who did it, not a Muslim, everyone started cleaning these streets up most people started cleaning the streets up that they previously damaged. So I think that was one of the good
Mm.
things that happened. But just
Mashallah.
because even if it was a Muslim, one person can't represent the whole entire religion. Not all of us are terrorists. Islam is a religion of peace, and we try to be good people. So, and the fact that it was someone from a Christian background does not give us the opportunity to go out all on Christians, because one person cannot represent an entire religion.
Mm. Good point. You want to add something, Zaina?
Well, do you think with the media that you were being fed by the government, was it accurately depicted when the whole thing was happening, or do you think you were being like very misinformed and kept under cover and everything?
Obviously, you have to check whenever you get certain news, you have to check if it's valid. But I feel like some of these riots may have been overhyped, and there was a lot of like extreme situations. Many posted online saying it was worse than it really is. But yeah, they are still really bad, and they should be stopped.
Personally, like I believe that the media representation is the reason it went downhill, and some people might believe that they're just the far right or the far left communities were giving misrepresented media, but due to even though I feel like BBC is the reason that everything did go downhill, and it the what the media was trying to portray was that the protests that were being done against the riots are like like as a whole. It was trying to show the riots as a protest. You're saying that the riots were like, shown as a big deal, like they weren't actually. But when I did my research, I could see that the riots were actually being shown as protests. And one thing that the police was lacking in was being able to identify the peace protesters from like they couldn't tell them apart. For example, the people who were against the rioters were also being treated the same way by the police, and that wasn't a very good situation. So that's one thing that I think that the UK police needs to work on, is that they need to see that the people who were actually creating the riots were usually uneducated people who were, some of them were on probation, they were unemployed, and they were the ones saying stuff like immigrants are taking our jobs and stuff like that. And the people who were being peaceful and telling that the riots are wrong, they were just normal people. They were Muslims, or they could also be, British people, British Muslims, and they were just protesting against these rioters. But they were again being treated the same way by the police.
Yeah, you do have a good point. Most of these people are people who have like a lot of free time, and most of them are alcoholics, drug addicts. So it just shows, and many of these are confused and misinformed. I feel like if we just get a chance to talk to them and they listen to us, maybe we can change their ideology.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I'm sure like not everybody is like, among those protests was just like alcoholic, drug addict, but maybe a lot of people are just misinformed, right?
Yeah, we just have
Yeah.
to, inshallah, warm up to their hearts. And also, there were really bad cases. Like I saw a couple of videos, there were really bad cases of these riots.
Yeah.
People were just smashing windows for no reason. Like it's gonna affect what's going on. Like it's going to say a message, just creating unnecessary problems for the community
Yeah.
and damaging our streets. So yeah, it's not really a great way to put your message out there.
Hmm.
I think this whole situation was majorly impacted Muslims the most, especially since, did you see that interview, Ahmed, where on the street there was this man, the interviewer was asking him, so why are you rioting? And he was like, because I don't have a job and I'm unemployed because of these people. They were like, because of what? Because that Muslim woman on the street took your job, and why haven't you had a job for the past years? And then he just goes like, oh, because I was in jail, in it. Like, you were in jail. How could someone take your job? Like, other than being misinformed, they're just their audacity is just
Yeah, there were many like interviews where, like with the Liverpool Imam, who asked a couple of people a few questions on why they're rioting. They didn't really give him like clear answers as to why they're doing it. And I heard that once someone asked, and they were just like saying like, oh, because of these Iraqis and something like that. So they're not really informed as to why they're rioting themselves. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Mm. There's just a lot of anger, and they don't know like who to channel that anger on. There's frustration about how my life sucks, and they need somebody to blame it
Yeah,
upon
that's
because they
the
don't want to
point.
take responsibility.
They want
So
someone to
Muslims,
blame for all the problems going on.
yeah. So instead of taking responsibility that, okay, I need to do this, or I have a problem with my job or so on, easy to blame. Oh, it's because of them, right? I mean, that goes to show how important it is for us to take responsibility for our problems rather than find somebody to blame. And it, like, it kind of starts young when we are kids. Instead of taking responsibility for our problem, they're like blaming siblings or parents or teachers. And then you just develop that pattern, and you grow old and you're that kind of a person, who's blaming another community for his own problems, that I don't have a job because somebody else, a Muslim woman, took my job or whatever.
What do you think? What do you think could be a solution for, things to like in the future? How could we, prevent these sort of situations from happening?
I mean, I don't think we should be spreading false media on our stories or whatever, because this leads to more what do you call people thinking this is right and then other people think this is wrong. And I actually do have a story that's connected to Ahmed's. In my local mosque, there are people from UK that came, and they had no idea about the UK riots because the group leader took their phones, so they had no idea. And then I made a friend there, so I explained what happened. And he was shocked. And then he FaceTimed his friend from my phone, and he's like, "What happened? What happened?" And this guy's just saying, his friend is just saying, no. He said people are exaggerating over the media. He said nothing really happened. We gathered outside, white and Muslims. He said it wasn't only Muslims because this is what do you call it, impacting the whole community, not only Muslims. And then he said, yeah, a couple protesters came, but those protesters were just confused. They didn't even know what was going on. They asked them questions. They were like, and then one of the protesters even said he didn't even know why he was here. He was just told by his friend to come here. And he had no
Mm,
any idea of the backstory.
interesting. So I guess the media exaggeration and problems work both ways, right? On one hand, like Zaina is complaining, why didn't they talk more about it? But on the other hand, maybe it was actually not that
Yeah.
bad as media's made it sound. Maybe there were some riots in some places, but then media projects like, oh, all of UK is burning and
Yeah.
so on. But it's not like that at all. All right. And maybe most people, common people,
It's like
kids at
more of the
school, teachers, it's
like
not that big of a deal. It's not like, they just hate Muslims everywhere. Like, Ahmed, have you personally encountered any hatred or Islamophobia at school,
No, in my like
shops,
whole area
streets?
in Wales, there's been no riots
Yeah.
I've seen.
Yeah.
but
So it's
it's
like
not.
it's sensationalism as well to make it sound like, obviously then people watch the news. Right? News has to do that to get the views and people to watch it. They have to exaggerate things and make it sound like it's 10 times worse than things actually are. So we have to keep it in mind as well. It's not like it really has become impossible for Muslims to live there, and just people are just coming after you with guns or knives. One or two incidents, they just exaggerate them like crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, since you guys are right, of course, that it is exaggerated some places, but the effect is not always like the physical rioting that's hurting Muslims or immigrant communities. It's more of like a mental effect too. Since we were talking about BBC earlier, and some people think that BBC is portraying it correctly, but we cannot forget that BBC provides, it's like a platform that is like, it provides a platform for voices, for example, like Douglas Murray. And if you saw that during the after the riots, like around like August, first week, he was making posts on Instagram. Like, he said something like about mass legal and illegal migrations are always a challenge to the social structure of a country. He took the whole thing on immigrants, and as we know, many immigrants are Muslim immigrants that go to the UK. So this way, and BBC then saw these posts, and they let him speak on it on live TV. So he said other stuff like, but you combine that change with zero benefit to the people born in the country. Well, that is a recipe for disaster. He speaks very negatively on immigrants, and BBC lets that happen. And everybody knows that many immigrants are Muslims. So again,
Yeah.
it starts stemming more Islamophobia in people. So even if the riots didn't cause too much physical harm to Muslims or didn't at the moment, it still starts planting seeds of Islamophobia here and there against Muslims or against immigrants. And even if those Muslims were British Muslim by birth, just because they're wearing a headscarf or they look like a Muslim, they will be targeted in the future. That you are the one stealing our jobs. You are the reason, you're the recipe of disaster in this country. And it's all
Not
because of.
necessarily that they will be targeted, but I see what your point is, that media is maybe favoring a side. And it's true. That's how this kind of mentality spreads. We have seen that's what has happened in Israel, isn't it? Their entire media is so propaganda. The entire media is just like 24 hours propaganda, and people are bothered, they're brainwashed. But that's why it's important that when we see things like that, biased things, that we raise our voices, we complain about to BBC about it, we complained to the news channel that this wasn't appropriate, and people in UK have filed complaints when they saw things like that, right? They have
Mhm.
taken BBC to court, or things like that. I remember, like, there was a hearing, right, Ahmed? Maybe you know this better. When BBC aired when there was the ICJ first time the proceedings were happening for the Palestinian genocide, the first one, they aired the Israeli side, but they didn't air when South Africa was defending or making their case, basically. They didn't air it.
Yeah. No, I obviously heard about the Israeli case on BBC, and then later I found out that obviously South Africa were the first country to stand up for Palestine.
Yeah.
MashaAllah. And yeah, it was quite surprising that BBC did not involve it into the news at all.
Yeah.
So
But then there was a hearing. BBC had to answer for that why didn't they air it? And they made up some excuses about something else going on that day and so on.
yeah,
But at least, they are held accountable for that.
yeah.
It doesn't
I
happen in
feel
all the
like
countries.
I feel like this hate towards Muslims has been like growing over time. I think
Yeah.
and this like rumor was like the limit for them and like the perfect chance for them to find something more
Yeah.
and big against us. So
Use it as a trigger. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it just like, yes, that is wrong, and we should speak up against it. How media portrays it, and what's happening, what's slowly growing, Islamophobia. We know that's happening, but also we should not be like, oh no, this is it, the end for Muslims. Muslims cannot leave their homes now. It's a disaster. London is burning, UK is burning, Liverpool. Like what? There is also we have to balance it, right? I mean, I guess one of the really great things we saw also is so many people who were not Muslims actually came together, right? To support the Muslims. Not just Muslims, but, to be against why not highlight that? Because obviously that's going to propagate that. I mean, we should be highlighting that. Imagine if news was 24 hours highlighting that, like UK stands with Muslims and so on. That would spread another kind of message, right? I mean, that's amazing. Like, obviously, there's a huge population, probably the majority in UK, who actually supports Muslims, isn't it?
yeah.
But
Yeah,
mhm.
they do obviously overhype these. Like it's not the end of the world here in the UK. It's not like
Yeah,
as bad as it seems to be. Obviously, there are some things here and there in different areas that can be argued like quite bad, but otherwise, it's not entirely as bad as it seems to be.
yeah,
I mean, I would
Like
even
we
argue.
like, yeah, go ahead, Ayaan.
I mean, I would even argue. I think the people in the UK are also confused because the exaggeration. Because on my feed, I saw a bunch of Pakistani people celebrating the Independence Day outside with the police, and nothing really seemed to happen over there.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if somebody is just reading news, they're like, oh no, I cannot go to the mosque and I can't be Muslim openly. I'm not gonna wear hijab. What if somebody does this? They just let the fear completely overtake them. And the other side actually of it is that like this outrage, right? Media feeds on it. You are outraged about this and they are outraged about that. Let's fight and then we can report it. It's divide and rule that way as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always those like forwarded WhatsApp messages. And like
Yeah.
sometimes it's like those like messages on like the different group chats that say like, oh, watch out, tonight there's gonna be a protest, blah blah blah. But they usually never happen. So it's kind of like
Yeah.
overhyped and yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
they want to outrage the people. They want to, because that way more news happens and more views happen, and they profit from that. And more people feel like victims, and more people feel like, anytime you're feeling like a victim, you're going to blame somebody else. And then cycle starts. And that's why a lot of time, unfortunately, a lot of Muslim youth might become, you know, violent or disenchanted, basically. They're like, oh, everybody here hates us. They all hate us. They're bad people. We also don't want that to happen, right? I remember actually I'm relating to it from I live in Australia, obviously. And from there I used to watch news about India all the time. That it's just horrible in India, so much Islamophobia, and the people kill the Muslim here and horrible stories, right? Mob lynching of Muslims. It's still happening. But then I came here and it's actually not that bad. Right. It doesn't mean it's not bad. It's not doesn't mean that there isn't that hatred in some people's hearts and some people are not really that violent and so on. But general public is just like they just want to go about their own lives. And the news here is total propaganda. It's just total propaganda, 100% propaganda against Muslims. But yeah, I guess we also have to balance. But obviously, this is bad. That's why we are doing this podcast. We are not saying it's not a big deal. We're not saying, oh, it's nothing, ignore it. It is a big deal. That's why we are here. But also, we also need to, you know, manage our fear. We don't become paralyzed by it as Muslims.
Okay, so since I don't live in, the UK and I don't really know much about it, but like as a solution, as like a small solution, like for example, I would say that yes, I do believe that most of UK does probably support the Muslims and many people there support Muslims, whether they are non-Muslims or Muslims. But like I said, like how if you have noticed, even the most valid medias that you could consume, if they are talking about, if they're talking about stuff that's happening in UK, they would only go as far as saying like far right violence or violent riots taking place, but when it's a white person, but they will never mention that it's white people carrying out like the violence. They will not mention the race. But when it comes to like reporting crime about like brown people or black people or then the race and the religion are like at the upfront. So what I feel like what a solution would be is if there were more Muslim media representations, or at least if
Hmm.
I'm not sure if there are, right? Like I said, I'm not sure.
Right. But yeah, I understand the point about that. Yes, we need more Muslim voices, right?
Yes.
Muslim leadership, right?
Yeah.
And I think on that, actually, Ahmed, you wanted to share the example of the Imam.
oh yeah, so the story of the Liverpool Imam was obviously there was an attack against Liverpool, there was mosque, there was counter and the protesters. And at first the police didn't even cross the road to try and talk to the people because they said it was too dangerous for him. And they started making the food, and by like 10 o'clock in the night, he started giving out these food packs to everyone. And the first group of people, the rioters he went towards, completely ignored him, acted like he was invisible. So then he went on, the second group of people, he gave the food to, he had a chat with them, and he was offering like explanations of who we are and like we're not all these things. And he warmed up to their hearts, and then he asked 4 or 5 of them why they were rioting. I've said this before, but I'll say again, why they were rioting, and they didn't really give him clear answers. They were like, oh, just here and there. Yeah, so it was really good that he offered peace to them and didn't try to, and yeah, it was really nice to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody's commenting, somebody's watching us live. And they said that, okay, you have said a lot. I'm just reading that now. So let me see. It's saying there's a lot of media bias. That's true, physical harm or not. I understand Zaina's point about the whole point of feeling stigmatized by all the labels. That's right. Okay. And so that's what we need to be careful about, right? So they want to use it in one way to, exaggerate the hatred there, and the other that they exaggerate the victimization of us, that Muslims shrink in more. Oh, we need to be scared. Everybody's coming after us. And then they are more scared to reach out, and like what Zara was saying, that we should have more leadership and more media, but Muslims are just so scared all the time, often, that they just feel like the world is against us, we can't do anything. So we don't want that fear to just like overwhelm us, like that's it, I will never be able to do anything, we are the biggest victims in the world, nobody's a bigger victim than us. And you see today, even, the mayor of London is a Muslim. You can talk about what kind of a Muslim, and, I'd see thousands of people saying he's a hypocrite. I don't know. I'm not judging that, but Allahu alam. I don't know much about him, to be honest. But we see, like, and I think in UK, there was a Muslim Palestinian lady, right? Who stood up for election and almost won. Isn't that right, Ahmed? I can't remember what was her name.
I don't remember hearing that.
She was just in early 20s. She's like 19, 20 years old.
All right, mashallah.
She was very young and she stood for election. I think she lost from Labour. She stood up as an independent. She was Palestinian. She lost just by 500 votes. Let me look up her name. Palestinian UK politician. Female. Leila, is it Leila?
Oh yeah, I think I remember hearing it on BBC actually.
Lian Muhammad. Yeah, I think. Lian Muhammad. Yeah. So, mashallah, I mean, it's amazing. Yeah, that's right. Lian Muhammad. Like, it's amazing. Like, one of the biggest parties, she almost defeated them in just a few, it was a very short time she campaigned. And that's what we need from the Muslims, that doesn't matter how much hatred they might be, or how strong far right might be, we stand up courageously, isn't it?
Yeah, because in the end, far right, far left, both have a different set of problems for the Muslims. They don't really. Wait, are you guys there?
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
thought you all
What
stuck.
about what is happening with news media, in like what Zaina was talking about? Do we have Zoom? Is there Muslim media, Emaan? I know there's Islam channel. Yeah. Are you speaking,
Yeah.
Ahmed?
There is I forgot to ask me. There is Islam channel. I can't really think of anyone else really at the moment. There are obviously those social media accounts here and there popping up.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Muslim social medias.
Yeah. But yeah, no like newspaper or other news channels. There probably are other.
Not that I know of. There's probably
Yeah.
there probably are, just not
Yeah.
as popular as
Yeah.
Islam channel.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we need more of that, and we hope some of the kids watching us start up something. Why, you're gonna go do some work, you're gonna make money, inshallah, make money in this niche, right? I mean, build up businesses, which are obviously
What
not just
really
for
is though
Muslims.
annoying is whenever something is talked about Islam or Palestine kind of related things, especially on social media, immediately those accounts get banned. They
Do
get
they?
banned really easily.
I think a lot of definitely there is that too, the shadow banning, a lot of shadow banning these days. But yeah,
There is one channel that's good. It's called Zito News. I don't know if you watch it. It's
yeah,
by Mehdi
Mehdi
Hassan.
Hassan. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice if you want like good information on situations and stuff.
Yeah. I think also this banning of pages, I don't think it is absolutely true that what you just said, Ahmed, immediately gets banned thing.
I did. I think I remember. I posted a Palestine kind of related video, and I remember a few days later something happened to my account. My Google account was banned off YouTube. They just said I couldn't use
Wow.
it, and I couldn't go onto it. So I was like, oh,
Wow. Because I post it, it works. And a lot
yeah.
of other people are posting. I'm sure if you found something,
I think
you
my
found it
account was
shared in
solely
somebody.
related on Palestine, so maybe that's why.
Right, maybe. I think also they, like, I know Facebook was doing that a lot. Immediately the reach would drop and so on. But alhamdulillah, I also think that there are billions of Muslims. And no matter how much they want to shadow ban us, if we really put in the effort, we can, we can, like, whatever the damage algorithm is doing, we can overcome that if Muslims really started being more proactive.
There is
That
one app which is really good. It's like TikTok. You get like you scroll, except it's all just Islamic videos. I don't remember the name of the app, but it's quite a nice concept. Like instead of just
what app is
scrolling
that?
randomly, instead of just scrolling randomly, you just get
Is it
Islamic
like
videos.
halal tube?
Yeah, kind of. It's like halal TikTok, basically.
Okay. But I guess, I think like even if we built, I know there have been people who tried before just making social media, like there was like Salam or something, which was Facebook for Muslims. But then what's the point? You can't give dawah. Like only people there are Muslims.
Hmm.
So the
Oh
news is
yeah,
just for Muslims.
that's actually true.
Like it's just like a ghetto.
Like especially on the Quran videos I see sometimes every now and then, there's many Muslims or not non-Muslims, sorry, that say like these recitations really warm their heart, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so
it's
I guess that might be the point. If like you want a sanitized environment for kids and teenagers, you can do that. Like,
yeah,
but if your objective is to change perceptions, remove Islamophobia, spread news about Palestine, then you can't be on a platform that's just for Muslims.
yeah,
Then you need to be able to share with non-Muslims, because those are the minds you're trying to affect. Somebody suggesting ideally what would work is to have a panel of more open-minded people who run a news bulletin with Muslims involved. Yeah, it doesn't always even have to be just Muslims, right? Have a diverse panel. Everybody has an equal voice rather than you suppress one community. Okay, Zena, back to you. Zena is a little distracted right now, probably answering her mom.
No, actually, my dad came home, so I usually greet him, but so he didn't know. Yeah. So
But
I
yeah, I just want to go back to this. Was a good point by Zaina about media. It's just that we need to balance and so on. Inshallah, we see many of you come back, grow older and build your own news networks, inshallah.
inshallah. One thing that we forgot to discuss is how should we act in these situations, whether we are living there or we're not living there, or we are being directly affected or just social, like medially affected, if that's a word. Online. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm supposed to talk?
Whoever wants to talk. I talked a lot. Why don't you start, Zaina? Give your opinion.
Okay, so if I would be living somewhere where all of this would be going on, how am I supposed to act? I feel like if it was in a place where riots are happening, and for example, this is the beginning when the police hadn't, calmed them down, of course, I wouldn't be allowed to go outside much by my mom. Well, I'm not even allowed to go out generally, so I would be on house arrest then. But other than that, I feel like we could, of course, talk on our social media as Muslims. If we have non-Muslim friends on our social medias, we can talk so that their minds do not get, poisoned by the media again, because that's one of the main issues. And I would talk about it on my stories. I would make videos about it. I would try to do that, whatever I could do from home. And of course, I would make dua. I would pray for that to, get resolve, the issues to like die down. And if I'm living here, for example, to be very honest, I'm living in Jeddah, right? Here, none of my friends even knew anything about this. This stuff didn't even reach our Instagram site. Like, even though most of the stuff that happens in the world, when it's huge like that, it reaches, but it didn't even come in the algorithm. And I just know because, I have most of my family is like my great grandparents, they're like British and everything. So that's the only reason I would like get to know about it. When I asked my friends what are their views, I just wanted to know. Didn't I guess if we find out and we're living far away, all we can do is pray for the Muslims that are living there and act calmly in these situations. Of course, you don't want to instigate anyone to start being rude to you on the street for no reason. Try to like, not be in fear, but hold your ground. Someone is trying to say something about your religion. Don't start a screaming match, but like, stay calm, hold your don't instigate, don't trigger, don't try to make it worse, but also do not compromise on beliefs or take off what you're wearing just because someone asks you to or it offends them. That's what I think. Immediate
Yeah.
actions
Yeah.
that I would take.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
mashallah.
a very good point, like many people many people say mashallah that don't underestimate the power of da'wah. I think if we keep on praying, then inshallah these problems will not go away, because these problems will never go away, but they will become less and less, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Ayaan, do you want to add anything?
I mean, as the same, if I was in the situation, I would also probably not be allowed to get out for my mom. And I would also quickly post it on my social media.
Yeah, I was
Ask
quite
people.
annoyed. Dad did not allow us to go to the football match. We wanted to, but it's okay. It's okay.
Why didn't he allow you?
Because we were my dad thought there was gonna be riots there.
So there is a lot of fear, that means, in among the community.
Yeah, I really wanted to go, but alhamdulillah.
Yeah. So you kind of underplaying the fear then, Ayman.
So like I think the situation has died down now, right? There's no more like reason to stay at home now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not as bad anymore. Alhamdulillah, and inshallah it'll continue like this. Yeah, I mean, the news has started portraying about it less. But sometimes when the news starts like portraying things less, doesn't mean it's still not happening. Like
Yeah.
again with Gaza and again with the Ukraine-Russia war, they completely forgot about it until like now
But it's still
Ukraine
happening, yeah.
started invading Russia.
What? Really?
Yeah.
Ukraine started invading Russia, like this tiny country started invading Russia.
Mhm. They've already
Not
got
invading, you would say attacking.
yeah,
Okay.
they started they have like
Mm.
got a few places in Russia already.
So they are generally, I mean, I don't know if we talked about, I can't remember. Are generally people afraid to go to the mosque? Ahmed?
Where I am, no.
No. Okay.
And yeah,
Interesting.
it's not
Okay.
it's not a big of a deal for the mosque. It's more like just generally going outside to the central places. But
I see. Good. Alhamdulillah. Okay. So that's it, I think, for today. Yeah, and actually, we have done another program, another podcast, our very first one on Islamophobia. Go check that out. We talk a lot more in detail about Islamophobia there. In fact, Ayaan had shared a very interesting story there of his encounter with somebody who did not, like Islam, and he was like really against. But Ayaan was giving was giving dawah to him, and in the end, he said sorry to Ayaan. MashaAllah. Go, and if you're curious, I hope I have sparked some curiosity. go go watch the first episode of our podcast series. And that's it from us today. Jazakallah khair for watching. Make sure you share, please share, help us spread this podcast. The more you share, the more people watch, the more we will be motivated to do more episodes for you. And we will see you in the next one. Assalamu alaikum. Salams, guys.
Mashallah, everyone. Thank you for watching.